initially going into work with you, I was like, oh, 6 months. I'm gonna like lose all this weight. Everything's gonna change. It's gonna be transformational. And it was helpful. But the first 6 months were such a experiment with so many different pieces of my life. And I think when we realized there were so many things going on beyond the nutrition, I needed to come to terms with this is just not a quick fix, and that's okay. I really needed to learn that I needed to change my health in so many aspects, and that does not take 6 months. It takes much longer.
And that perspective, I think, has given you the skills to do this long term.
When I applied for your nutrition coaching, I was at my last straw. Those answers were reflective of the headspace I was in. I think it was reflective of how I had treated nutrition, like quote unquote programs prior,
Mhm.
because I was not used to being so reflective. I was sort of grappling with, I just feel like I don't even know who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing to carve the path forward. And there were a lot of options that were kind of given to me. You were recommended to me by my doctor. There were some quick fixes that I could have chosen to do, but I knew that I needed something more than a quick fix.
Yeah, you have great intuition around that. What do you feel like your biggest limitations were with dieting for the past, you mean, I think it was like 10 years prior to us working together that you really had been struggling. So what do you feel like were your biggest challenges before?
So much of an all or nothing personality.
Yeah.
I just thought one, weight loss was the only marker of success, that the only way to attain that was through severe food restriction and incredibly intense workouts that left me exhausted and with no energy afterwards. I never thought about my sleep cycle. I never thought about just what are the things in my daily life that I want to feel better about, not just my weight. And inevitably, I would lose a lot of weight, because there are things that you can do that are quick and fast and easy solutions for a specific time. And then I would be so exhausted from them, just like my body and mental headspace. And so inevitably, I would just slowly fall off the bandwagon, and a lot of that weight would creep back up, plus more. And I'd feel like a failure, and I'd be looking for the next quick fix.
And it was something that you've been struggling with, I think, since you were 10. Like there was a very specific point that you said that this has been something that's been challenging even since then. And a lot of those thought patterns had made it more challenging for you.
Absolutely. I mean, I we grew up in the 2000s,
Mhm.
of that very diet culture mindset. And even though there wasn't Instagram and TikTok to be putting these things in your face daily that way, there were magazines
Yeah.
and there were people on TV that only looked a certain way.
Yeah.
Um, and it was this thought of, if you don't conform to this very specific body type, you are not worthy. And that unfortunately resonated a little too much with me since an early age. And I think really was a huge part of my identity.
Yeah. And when you identify yourself as a certain way, unless you change that mindset, you're going to continue to feel stuck in that identity. So now, what do you feel like was your breakthrough, Emily, to move forward and through those really self-deprecating, limiting beliefs that you were struggling with?
We passed our 6 month mark of working together, and I definitely was committed to continuing our work together because I had seen progress in those first 6 months, despite, some struggles. Last summer, I sort of just had this moment of, Emily, this is the opportunity to change your mindset and your belief system. This will help with the trajectory of your life. This is not just a quick fix. And Jenny has been very forthright with you about that, that these changes really are your long-term lifestyle changes. So I think last summer I sort of had this moment of, okay, you've been taking it seriously, but maybe you haven't taken it as seriously as you need to. The journaling part of our work together, I had come to the point where I didn't necessarily need to be journaling the food for the nutritional aspects. We had been kind of hitting those targets, but I really needed to be journaling every day, or most days at least, to see how I was feeling, why I was feeling a certain way, especially on a day that didn't go as I planned. I think for me, that became has become more and more important of what was going on and why did you feel this way? Because we're all going to have bad days. And I think that was something I really learned in our work. It's okay to have a bad day, but the amount of bad days I have by far so much less, so much less. And also, I move past them so much more quickly than I ever would have in the past.
Absolutely. We're at a year and a half, we're moving strong. You've made transformational changes in so many aspects of your life. People notice a difference in you. Where do you feel like your nutrition and wellness is at this point?
It's definitely in the best place it's ever been in my entire life. I still have places I am working on, and that's why we continue to work together. And your coaching has been so integral to making these changes. I feel physically better,
Mhm.
but I think for me, having an emotional headspace where I can think clearly and make choices for myself that are really going to support me, there's no price you can put on that.
And thank you for sharing just your experience and your story because I think a lot of people feel that way, but you're not often ready to share that until you've really seen the other side of what it can be. And then
Yeah.
you can say, wow, I don't have to live like this anymore.
My gosh, I feel so much more calm every day and I feel at peace every day. And that was not me
Yeah.
December 2022. I
Yeah.
wake up most days and I feel at peace. The people around me notice that. Yes, I've lost weight and that's great and that feels good too. But I think the biggest compliment I receive is you seem so much more at peace with yourself. And that means everything.
It's just your presence and how you interact with people. And you just found such a nice mix for yourself of knowing when you need to have your own space and time and when you're ready to fully show up in social situations.
Yes, and I don't work necessarily the most traditional 9 to 5 job. I travel a lot for work.
Right.
So I think working together, it has also enabled me to figure out ways to support myself that aren't maybe what everybody else would need to be doing. And also recognizing on those long weeks when I've been traveling, it's okay to say no on the weekends to social things, but when I am sort of working 9 to 5, be more open to going to do something social because that's important too.
Absolutely. And just your enjoyment of cooking again and being in the kitchen
Yeah,
and finding enjoyment in meals and food again. I think that was limiting you in the past from even wanting to make anything because it felt so overwhelming and consuming.
absolutely. I mean, I've always loved to cook. I even at one point in my life thought I was gonna go to culinary
Yeah.
school. And just didn't wasn't in the cards for me. That was not the right path, but I think I became afraid of the kitchen and cooking, and like you said, I have so much more joy being in the kitchen. I don't feel like it's a punishment when I do my meal prep. I'm also not focused on the calories of what I'm cooking. I'm focused on, is there protein? Is there fat? Is there carb? What's going to set me up to feel the best version of myself after I'm done making this?
Mhm.
And also that there is no restriction. If I want to go have a burger and fries, I feel okay going to do that because I know I'm not going to overeat because I've had like a good meal rhythm all day. I made sure I had breakfast. I made sure I had lunch. This wasn't starving myself for this like meal that I don't eat every day. It feels like a treat, but it doesn't feel out of control.
There's such a difference between those feelings.
I couldn't agree more.
What would you say to someone that is in your position in the beginning and knowing that they need the support, but taking that next step feels hard? What would you say to someone looking back now in your position?
I would say try to be a little reflective, even if that's difficult. There's no one more important to you than yourself. So invest in yourself. If you're really struggling to move forward, whatever you might decide and whomever you might decide to work with, really, really think about, do they have your best interests? Because I think there are probably places that you could spend a little less money,
Yeah.
but that person might be overwhelmed with clients. It might be a program that is so huge, they have no idea who you are as an
Yeah.
individual. And their only purpose is to really just get you to the weight loss. It's not to make you the best version of yourself. So I would tell someone, think beyond the weight loss, which is a great sort of addition to most of the work that we do together, but think about how you want to feel. And do you want to feel this way every day when you wake up, or do you want to feel good about yourself?
Mhm. And that, like you said, it requires an investment, but do you feel like you showed up differently after making that investment in yourself and committing to doing this together?
Absolutely. To be frank, to think about all of the money I've spent on like diets and programs and
Yeah.
fitness and all of that, over the span of my whole life, this might seem like it's more of an investment, but it's not. And I think I just genuinely took it so much more seriously.
Mm.
But some of that is like just from our initial call, I felt compassion from you, which is something I had never felt from a program or even another dietitian who might have had really good intentions for me, but their client load was too much, or they didn't have the time to work with me as closely. And so I think that initial sort of one-to-one connection with you was what really sealed the deal for me to say, like, you can take this seriously and you're going to have someone who is taking it as seriously as you that's also investing in you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so glad that's what's been expressed to you because that's so important to me and very different than traditional programs where it is a lot of other people, right? That they're trying to manage. And I just value having that relationship with each person and, really getting to know you as a human. And
Yeah,
it's the best because we create, this life that together that we're just walking side by side, on the journey and it feels safe.
it's an actual judgment-free zone. I know there's so many places that sort of tout that, but this is really a judgment-free zone. I come into every session or even every day when I journal, and I'm not afraid to put down the hard things because I know you're going to come in with compassion and understanding and just ask me to be reflective of why I think something happened. And it's okay to be vulnerable
Mm,
because you're not there to say, well, you did it wrong. It could be that's never the answer from you. And that I think is something that I've never experienced in another coaching program.
yeah, it's so important. Just being curious and looking back on experiences through that reflective lens, I think has been so helpful for you to be able to move through it and just getting it out too, and just having someone to say, just to kind of ask those questions back and forth can be so helpful. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
So I just wanted to share with you, just like what you had wrote in the beginning too, of just creating your vision. I think it's just cool to see what your ideal life and just feeling around your life was for you because you did have that clarity. You were like, I know this is what I want for myself, but I just don't know how to get there.
Right.
I said, who's the person that you want to show up as? And we said, 3 to 6 months, but, in general in your life. And you said, I want to show up as a more balanced person in all parts of my life. I have struggled to sustain long term success with so many parts of my life because I often default to all or nothing personality. Instead, I would like to be able to prioritize myself without feeling hindered by food. But it's just so cool that you knew that
Yeah.
already, but it didn't even seem possible. It was like, yeah, this is how I want to feel. And then I said, how do you want to feel on a perfect day? I would wake up and have a delicious breakfast with an iced latte. I would take a walk on a trail in the morning with friends and have some type of picnic lunch after the walk. Then I would sit by a pool and hang out with my dearest friends while we swam, grilled, and listened to music. I would finish the day with a good book and going to bed at a reasonable hour.
Like, such the ironic part of this is that is exactly what my day is going to be today. I'm
Love
doing
it.
that exactly. I'm not taking a walk with my friends, but I woke up, I had breakfast, I enjoyed it. I'm going on a walk after our session, and then I'm going to hang at the pool with my friends, and we're gonna grill and just, like, read and swim this afternoon, and I don't have any fear of, "Oh my gosh, what am I gonna eat at the pool? What are" I'm bringing, pesto pasta salad or fruit salad, chips with salsa, and so I know I'll have things to support myself there, and yeah, so it's just, like, full circle moment right here that that's exactly happening today.
This is why I love it so much. It's so cool to see that for yourself of this is my ideal life. And it doesn't have to be this like crazy thing either.
Right, right,
It's the
right.
simplest things that are about the feeling of just creating this for yourself. And that was like your ideal, right?
It was so much about being at peace and feeling like I can enjoy just simple things in life, which is
Yeah.
I for me, just human connection and feeling good about
Yeah.
myself.
Amen. I think for everybody, right? At the end of the day, that's really what's important.
Yeah,
That's so cool. And then we said, what do you do for fun? Read books, swim, take walks, cook for loved ones, and explore new places.
yeah,
I
and
think you're,
that's still all true, but I think I'm really enjoying it now. I
yeah,
don't know that it was bringing me as much joy before because I wasn't able to grasp what joy meant, I think.
isn't that such a true statement that people are like, I just want to be happy? What does that even mean to you?
Right. And now I feel joy more days than I ever did in my whole life. And I think one of the most important pieces of us working together is we are human and we are going to have days that are not great. That's okay. And what are the tools that we can have to just reflect, work through them, and wake up the next day and say, okay, I'm ready to tackle this day, even though yesterday didn't go as planned. Again, it might not be the best day of your life the next day, but it's a lot easier to move on than for me it ever had been in the past.
You have all the wisdom. True application of knowledge is teaching back. And you just taught back everything, Emily. Truly, it's your own language and rhetoric and story in your brain is so different.
Yeah.
And it's just automatic now of this is how you talk to yourself. This is your programming.
Yeah. I think for the first time in my life, I don't see that changing
Mm,
because it's such a healthier mindset. It wasn't a quick fix. It took work and time because this is how I look at myself now. I don't think I'll ever be looking for the quick fix again. Yes, I'm still looking to lose a little bit of weight, but that is not my primary goal or intent in life anymore. I trust that through the work we do together, things will continue to fall into place how I need them to.
mhm. And because of that perspective you have, you will continue to be successful, truly. And you'll find what that means to yourself too as we just like progress through things and like where that sweet spot is for you. There's no finish line though. It's always like,
Right.
okay, I achieved this, now I want to do this. And this we're meant to grow and evolve forever.
Absolutely. And I think I love the fact that working together, like, because you progress and things become more a part of your life, and all of a sudden they're not a goal, they're just a part of what you do every day,
Yeah.
then you can have maybe goals that never would have seemed possible, or you would set them and you were setting yourself up for failure because you didn't have all these other pieces in place to attain that type of goal. So I
Mhm.
love that our work together continues to be fluid and it gives me the ability to look forward to things. I'm just not overwhelmed anymore by it. And I
Yeah.
really credit that to not being overwhelmed by so many other pieces of my life that when I need to travel, I can focus on it. But also, like, to go back to the food part of it, because that was always such a focus on whatever I was doing, wherever I was going, whoever I was with. I'm not stressed about it anymore. It just is a part of who I am,